Psychology's magazine. I am joined today by the wonderful Tania Diggory, who is a mental health advocate, an entrepreneur, and author of This is Karma. Tania, welcome. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Susie. Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to be talking about good mental health today. I know that everyone always talks about all the things that makes our mental health dissolve. Let's talk about what makes it positive. So tell me a little bit about you have just created a new festival that's happening on Friday. So let's just start there. So you've got a festival, a good mental health festival starting on Friday. What inspired you to create that?
So I'm co-organising this event along with Dennis Roloho-Howell, who is the founder of PsychReg, a mental health blogging platform. And we just felt there was this gap, this need in the market where, there's so much awareness around mental health these days, which is brilliant, fantastic, especially to know where to go to get the right kind of support if you're struggling. But we just felt there wasn't this awareness about the flip side of it, and there was so much towards what happens when there's a problem, what happens when you're struggling, whereas there's also mental resilience and positive mental health and how to nurture your mental well-being. So we wanted to create a platform that centered around that. So the focus of this festival is to help improve the way that people think and feel about mental health, so that we reach that balanced perspective, so that there is no more stigma. Just like we talk about physical health or emotional health, it's like we all have mental health, and there will be days where we're experiencing positive mental health, and there will be other days when we're struggling, but we can talk about it from a balanced point of view. So it kind of I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're hoping it just hits home in a different way for people. And we've got lots of speakers on the day who will be, supporting that message through different themes. So we're talking about the workplace, we're talking about resilience, we're talking about mental health in the creative industries, men's mental health, and digital storytelling as well. So lots of different topics.
Yeah, lovely. Well, so that's happening on Friday. So there's all the links below, so you can catch up with Tania there. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about burnout and the kind of difference between stress and burnout. I know that for many of us, we've been kind of crawling our way through lockdown, and it has been affecting us in various different ways. But I know a couple of weeks ago, I really hit a wall. I didn't feel very well. And the thought of having to go through the winter, and I just thought, and I just I'm in my cabin in my canal boat with listening to kind of guided visualizations, trying to find a way back to myself, basically. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, am I burning out? As I lay there. So how do we stop ourselves burning out, and what are the things that we can do to really support ourselves?
That's a really good question. So first of all, just perhaps identifying the difference between stress and burnout might be helpful. So with stress, it is a very natural response in the body, and it's a really important response. Like nobody goes a day without any type of stress at all. And there can be stress levels that are kind of helpful for you. For example, getting out of bed in the morning, that doesn't necessarily always feel that easy, right? So actually what happens in the body is your body releases in the brain a hormone called cortisol, which triggers that kind of like stress response, but it's also can be a driver and a motivator to get you moving. So there's different levels to stress. And actually you have a release of cortisol to help push you out of bed, to get away from those cozy covers and actually get on with your day. But you don't necessarily think of that as stress, right? I loved learning that when I was going through my research. But then there's obviously other kinds of stress that are more challenging, more difficult, and it's a question of how much it starts affecting you. But it's naturally a primitive response in the brain, and essentially it's to help keep you away from danger and safe. That's what your body is trying to do. So when you detect anything that you feel is dangerous, stressful, that you want to get away from, that you're finding really difficult and challenging, whether it's emotionally, whether it's personally, professionally, if we need ebbs and flows and ups and downs, right? So it needs to come and go, not just keep maintaining at this consistent, ongoing, unresolved level. That's when it can lead to that space of burnout. So if you're experiencing high levels of ongoing, unresolved stress, then that can lead to high levels of anxiety, mood changes, difficulty concentrating, sleeping. All of these things start to affect you on a regular basis. Yeah. And then when you reach a point where if you're starting to feel really exhausted, and we all have different responses that our body signals to us when we are feeling that way. or just stressed in general. If it's getting increasingly difficult, if you feel really exhausted, burnout is a state of complete and total emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. So it's like a car running with no fuel. You wouldn't expect it to keep going. You'd have to stop, refuel, reset the battery. So it's the same thing with our mental health. We really need to know what is that point for us, because it's different for everyone, where we just stop. We give ourselves permission. I know it's psychology, as you talk about that a lot too, about giving yourself permission, right? To just pause and reboot. So it is that differentiation. They're not really the same thing. It's that how long, will you be going on for? So to your question about how to prevent that is start to recognize little things, right? What do you feel like? If you can recall a memory where you felt really happy and really centered and like things were going really well, what does your body feel like? What does centeredness feel for you? How does your breathing feel? And then equally, if you think of a time when you felt quite stressed, agitated, what comes up for you? Do you feel a racing heart? Do you feel flushed cheeks? Do you feel it's difficult to breathe regularly? Do you feel tension in different parts of your body, headaches, trouble sleeping? There can be so many different signs and symptoms, and anxiety is incredibly common when it comes to stress as well, especially, and mood fluctuations. So try to identify when things flare up, when you're feeling stressed. Just take note for yourself. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And how am I feeling it? So that you can recognize if those symptoms start to flare up more regularly and ongoing, and if it starts to feel more difficult. It's really about giving yourself permission, like I said, to take a step back. Because if you're trying to push through tons of work commitments or just trying to be positive and happy for people around you, and you're really struggling yourself, whatever it is, you're going to get to a point where you are going to just feel like you're burning the candle at both ends, and it's really difficult to cope. So even just giving yourself perhaps micro bits of time in the day and consciously choose that, like set an alarm for it, say time to take a break, a positive alarm, not just to get out of the bed alarm, a positive alarm in the day, whatever it is for you that works, where you just take a few moments for yourself, you do something nice for yourself, you reset, you recharge, and you notice and just pay attention to your body, to your mind, to your emotions, and just allow them to settle a little bit. So you allow those ebbs and flows to come into your day, so you're not constantly feeling at that high level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this idea of having the small oases during the day, and this idea that we've got to sometimes, I think in lockdown, for many of us, it was we were working from home, we were caring for our families or for our teams or all of those things. And so it feels like all output. And what it seems to be is about, well, how can we input? How can we, you cannot just keep giving without giving to yourself, I think is really, really important. In terms of, what I feel like is giving yourself permission. I think I may be seeing sexist, but this idea from many women, I think it feels like we can't give ourselves permission. We're kind of constantly on, be it, mothering or, constantly nurturing, kind of a sense of nurturing. How do we kind of give ourselves permission to actually do that? Because there is that, okay, this is, you do take these oases, but sometimes it feels like, don't be ridiculous. I've got all of these things to do. I've got 25 million things to do. I can't possibly give permission to do that. And rather than saying as well, because then I can scare myself and say, well, if you don't do that, then you're going to burn out. And then I feel even more scared.
And then it just keeps building.
So how do I give myself permission, but in a really kind of nurturing way?
So I think the thing that springs to mind for me is about, what is your support network as well? Because sometimes I think we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be so many things to so many people and to be achieving so much. And actually having people in your corner, even just a small collective, what I call inner circle, of people who give you emotional support, professional support, and personal support in different ways. Even if it's just one for each, you're winning, right? So, however big or small that support network is, people that you can go to and say, look, I am struggling with this. I know I need to give myself more time. Can you help me? Can you just remind me once in a while? Can you drop me a message here? Or can you just, if you live with someone, for example, who can also help, just take me out of my seat at a certain point. Let me go for a little walk, come out with me, so have people in your corner who can also really support you if you're particularly struggling yourself, to do that. But, a question that you can reflect on is, what if I don't do this? You know, what might that look like? Like if I'm trying to just do things for myself, you know, if I don't give myself time, what might that look like? You know, if I don't allow myself these micro bits in the day, or just a specific part, like say, I'm going to work really hard today. I'll aim to give myself little breaks, but actually at the end of the working day, I'm going to treat myself to a really nice bath, or I'm going to go out for a walk. And that is what I'm going to do. Like, I'm just going to switch my system off because there's only so much time in a day. You're one person. And whilst you're, you know, say part of a thriving company, or you're running your own business, or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, there's always going to be things to do. And I think sometimes it's just having that self-reflection and realization that there's only so much that I can get done in a day. And actually, what is really crucially important? Am I putting too much pressure on myself in either saying yes to too many things, or could I actually reflect on what I've got in my diary at the moment and think, does that need to be done now? Like, what if I move that to next week? What might that look like? And sometimes these just little reflective questions to ask yourself can help you reset as well.
I know one of the things that I'm really good at is doing the thing of, I'll rest in a week because then I just need to get this project finished. And then once I've got this project finished, then I can do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's part of the kind of, I'd be happy when I could rest.
Yes.
When, how do I get around that, this kind of thing? You know, you're saying about these oases of time. I think that's a really good tip. But in terms of the psychology of that, you know, this kind of, I'll just get this massive bit of work finished. Getting the magazine out every 4 weeks. You know what I mean? There's no end to it. You know what I mean? As much as we love our magazine and it's amazing, but it's still very much, you know, this is a piece of work that we have to get every 4 weeks. But you know, but I love that and it's brilliant. But it's more, that's fine. But then when I've got other stuff on top of it, and it just sometimes never. So how do I change my psychology around that?
That's a really, really good question. It's, again, I come back to the reflection point. But I mean, for me, what always helps, because, you know, as you know, you've known me for a long time now, Susie, I've run, you know, 3 different businesses, and with Karma now, it's the longest business that I've run. And we know we're in our 4th year, going really, really well. And we have our challenges still, like any business, you know, and like you say, life happens too. So you've got all this stuff going on alongside, you know, whatever you're doing in your professional life, juggling so many things. When I find it really, really difficult to cope, I ask myself, would I be doing anything else, or would I choose to do anything else? And when you really sit with that, in terms of professionally speaking now, especially, like, you know, when you've got so much going on, just reminding yourself that you have choice can actually be really, really empowering, because actually my answer always comes back to no. Like, I would always be doing this. Like, I wouldn't choose anything else other than what I'm doing now. And if something does come up that you're actually realizing, actually this part of my life I'm no longer satisfied with, then that's great. That's a bit of an awakening, you know. So sometimes we can be so busy, we're not giving ourselves time to breathe, you know, or just pause and reset, where we can actually miss that we've stopped feeling satisfied with certain aspects of our life. And that could be the stressor that's underlying a lot of stuff. And when you remove that, even, it can be amazing how light you might feel. So you're still busy, but you've just eradicated one thing that's really helping you. So I would really encourage you to think about, and, you know, the viewers here, to think about, you know, what would I choose to do? Can I choose to do anything differently? And just really honing in on that word choice. So when you talk about the psychology behind it, Susie, you know, language is incredibly powerful, as you know, right? So the words we say to ourselves and the words that we reinforce sends a feedback loop in the brain from consciously thinking these things to unconsciously sinking in as truth. So when you use and choose empowering language, that actually helps your brain, like, you know, sink in the truth of what you want your existence to be, right? So when you use empowering words like choice, you know, belief, my values, things like that, and reinforce what's really important to me, then yes, even if you're still really busy, it can still really empower you, and also identify if there's even just one thing that maybe you need to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think this piece, I think you're absolutely right. We were just talking about it in our Monday morning motivate this morning, this idea of consciously creating your life. And I think, so, you know, for many of us, we just go on unconscious, and we just, you know, on this kind of, this is what we've always done. And if you keep on thinking what you've always thought, you'll keep on getting what you've always got, which is sometimes great, sometimes not so great. And so I think the choice piece is so, so important. And there's also, I think, around what do you want? You know, what is it, where you actually, what do you think all of this is going to get you? You know what I mean? That thing for me. And it's, you know, for me, I mean, it's my greatest superpower, but it can be also my greatest downfall, which is my creativity. So the problem is I'll do my breathing and I'll do my meditation and I become uber creative. So I've got all of these amazing ideas, but then I start them all and I just get so exhausted by it all. And it's like, you know, and then I become overwhelmed and then I don't enjoy this amazing, you know, life that I'm leading on my canal boat with, you know, with my lovely new dog and all of this thing. And it's very much, isn't it, about looking, so yes, consciously choosing, but also keep asking yourself, connecting with that idea of what are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? Why? And, you know, these psychologies is meaning and purpose. You know, it is to, you know, to be privileged enough to be leader of a magazine that is all about to promoting mental health and promoting living a life based on your values, all of those things. It's really important, isn't it? And then that immediately calms me down. It's like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also planning, like, you know, just reminding yourself of what's in your control, because, you know, I think a lot of us like to feel in control, right? You know, could go so far as to say as everyone likes to have a sense of feeling in control. And that can help aid your mental health and well-being. But we're not always able to control everything. But like what you just said then, if you know, end up starting a lot of things, or you actually are doing a lot of things that you've implemented, then you can, if it gets overwhelming, backtrack and think, okay, how can I plan this better for myself? And, you know, looking at the months ahead, looking at the years ahead, especially for the time we're living in now, I believe that planning is especially important for our well-being. You know, even the small things to the big things, especially when we feel a bit limited in what we can do, you know, it's like, what can I plan for myself so I feel that sense of control, understanding I can't always control everything, but I can hold on to what I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much here. This is so wonderful. Just I feel really kind of inspired and a bit like, yeah, that's so true. What you're saying is absolutely right. And, you know, it really helps us. And again, you know, these broadcasts that, you know, we're doing, and I just asked Tania to do some more regular broadcasts for us going forward. So thank you for saying that, because I find what you say is very inspirational, but also really practical. You know, I mean, what you do is you give really practical tips. So just I'm going to give another plug for your Good Mental Health Festival on Friday. So if you want to know more about what Tania is doing, all the links are below. One last tip to leave us with, Tania, about how to flourish with our mental health. And before we come to your Good Mental Health Festival on Friday, what should we do?
So how to flourish with our mental health. It's a really simple task, but it's something that then sets the trajectory for, you know, good mental health. Is make sure that we tap into conscious breathing every day, because a lot of how we feel in ourselves and our emotional well-being, our mental health, it stems and is connected to the breath. We can breathe really, you know, constrictedly when we're feeling stressed and highly overwhelmed, and we may not even be aware of that. And actually, when we make the choice to stop, pause, consciously take a deep breath in through our nose and let it flow throughout our mouth, and repeat that, you know, at a really slow, conscious pace, not only does it improve the connections and strengthens the connections in the brain linked to stress and actual logical thinking, but also it calms down our nervous system. It helps improve our respiratory system. It actually has so many physiological and psychological benefits. So just starting from that place is what I would say, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed. Breathe first and foremost. Give yourself even just 30 seconds to a minute. Do that, and then make whatever decisions you're making from that day from that place of empowerment, rather than making it from a place of fear, you know, of stress, of overwhelm. Like, we may not make our best decisions in that state, right? So think about a state of calm, starting with the breath. So that's what I would say.
Brilliant, great. And I, you know, having been following the Wim Hof stuff, he was the Iceman, and he's been doing this kind of breathing technique, and it's been amazing. But again, I get it's amazing, and then I get more creative, and then so I love the thing about planning, Susie. It's creative and plan. It's good. Tania, thank you so much for your wisdom again today. Tania will be joining in a regular slot going forward, talking to us about mental health. Thank you again for your wisdom, and good luck for Friday. I'm sure that you will be inspiring lots of people along the way. Lots of love, Tania.
Thank you so much, Susie. Look forward to connecting with you.